I'm Ching-Yun. Welcome to my home. Today I'm going to play for you and share with you some of my thoughts about Ravel's Gaspard de la Nuit, the Undine. And this piece is it's very interesting from multiple angles. And the technical aspect is that you have to be able to play the water figure as softly, as singing, and as evenly as possible. And you need to create this world. It's almost like it's mesmerizing. You're in a trance and you don't want to break the spell. And then Undine is singing her very seductive songs. And how do you do that on the keyboard? And that's what is difficult. So sometimes if you have a fantastic instrument that the repeated actions are so wonderful, then it works like magic. But what if you don't? What if you go into a concert hall and the keyboards, literally the repeated function just don't work? So what do you do in that case? So I have always found that when you start the piece, it's very important to try to feel the keyboard, the weight of the keyboard. You can literally feel how much weight you need to give in order for the keys to repeat. And I practice this technique, which has helped me a lot, which is like this. So I'm literally using the weight of my wrist, and I go down like this. In this motion, so that the repeated notes, they don't sound it's mechanical. You never want the 30-second notes to sound mechanical. And since it's your right hand or 30-second notes, they're like water. You want it to have this kind of waves. It should never be flat. And using a little bit of rotation and weight, it really helps to create this kind of sound world for the water figure, and as well as the repeating notes. You can play extremely soft. It's pianissimo. And then Undine comes in, the song starts. Try to play my melody at least 3 times the sound, the volume, than the 30-second notes, because especially in your concert hall, you want the melody to project. But this kind of projection is never a harsh kind of sound, but rather it needs to be very warm, and as Ravel indicates, it's very sweet and very expressive. So the sound needs to have a sustaining quality to it. It's not just sustaining, but at the same time, the melody sound, it needs to have air. It needs to literally feel like your melody has air in them. And this becomes very important later on when it grows into, for example, like chords with melody on top. You never want it to sound like stuck. You don't want it to it's not a very good sound. So you always want your melody to sing like literally like as in human voice. So This is about the beginning, and then later on, the 30-second notes transforms to arpeggios. And here, I just want to share with you that it's very easy to feel like your hands are stuck in a keyboard, like this. So here, when it turns over, oftentimes you will find that people add accents here, and that's very understandable because when you're turning, you are adding weight here. So it's very important that your arms are always held a little bit on a higher way, like this, so that when you turn over, you don't give an accent to the lower lines. Yeah, and then again, your melody is like you take the sound out of the keyboard. So you don't need to hold on to the keys. This is not necessary because you have pedal. I've always found that when you want to play legato sound, it's not necessarily that you need to stay on the keys, because as piano is constructed, that after you play a note, literally you cannot hold on to it. It doesn't matter how you do this, it doesn't hold on. But it's rather to play legato is really the matter of listening. So if you can listen how the notes is formed, if your ears can follow the line, then that's how legato is formed. It's not how you hold on to the keys. So here, it's a very good example. See, the melody is still going on. This is another example. And another thing I have found that is very useful for this piece is that to depict the poem, it needs to have this kind of mesmerizing kind of effect, right? So try to play the 30-second notes as melodically as possible without making them sound mechanical. That's a very important aspect to Undine, which I have found to be very useful for myself. That especially when it's very, very difficult to play like repeated chords. So try to play as melodical as possible, and I think this applies for all the pieces actually. Like even if you play an etude, it should never sound mechanical. It should always sound like it's made out of melodies. Even Mozart's accompaniment, and even accompaniment, everything, if it's melodic, then it doesn't sound like the sound is stuck. Okay, so as the piece develops from first page until the 8th page, you will notice that it's either piano, pianissimo, or pianissimo. There's really literally nothing more than this dynamic wise. So it's very important to keep that mesmerizing and shimmering kind of quality to the piece. And I use Nancy Bricard's edition. I found this edition to be really fantastic, and she gives a very good introduction at the beginning, which talks about the style, the technique, interpretation, and the poetry, and how Ravel came to write this piece. I highly recommend this edition. It's really very interesting to read it, and also for Logibet, and also for Scarborough. And okay, so let's go back to Undine. When in the poem, Undine gets more and more involved and more passionate as her song grows. So starting from measure 53, she's little by little growing more and more, and the water wave is growing more and more strongly. And here you start to see dynamics that's more than pianissimo. So for example, 58 as measure 58, it starts one measure you need to play from pianissimo going to forte. And this part is also challenging because it has a lot of double thirds. So here, with the bass kept, and then starting from pianissimo, from pianissimo going into forte, and then comes back. And so this part, you can start to feel like this water is getting more and more and more strongly, and then finally it go to the develops to the climax of the piece, which is Ravel indicates increase little by little and then hold back. As climax, it's measure 67 is a little more slowly. And I have found that this is the case with most of the pieces that I have found similarity. Like when it gets to climax, you literally hold back, giving a little bit more time. It helps with the entire progress. However, like oftentimes I hear my students play, they actually, when it gets to climax, they literally play faster. And here, not only does the sound need to breathe, you need to use your entire forearm to make sure that the chords are still singing even though it's fortissimo. So here... It's so magical, and the key is simply letting the sound speak. And how it works is simply that you need space to literally take the chords like this way to let the sound ring more. And then Undine sings, and then after climax, she's rejected. Yeah, and so time sort of stops. Measure 85. From the beginning, you have 30-second notes all the way till here. Yeah, so here, time stops. And then Undine cries and laughs and then disappears. And this is literally, the last section is literally like in the poem. So disappears, as in the poems it says, vanished in a shower that streamed white down the length of my stained glass windows. So that's a little about what I know about the Undine, and try to share that with you, and I hope that was useful. And now I will perform the entire piece for you. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.